Are Alexandra Daddario's worst movies still worth watching? Not all actors are lucky enough to have every film they star in be a masterpiece, especially early in their careers or before they play their most acclaimed roles. Actors struggle to land jobs that are deemed as worth watching by the public. This is certainly true for Alexandra Daddario, who made her acting debut at the age of 15 in All My Children. She later grew to international recognition by playing Annabeth in the Percy Jackson movies, and her career was never the same after a certain scene in season 1 of True Detective. And yet, even amidst international fame and box office blockbusters, Daddario has still appeared in her fair share of projects with less than favorable reviews, as any young actor with potential does. It wasn't even until season 1 of The White Lotus that she gained her first major award nomination at the Emmys, and only recently made her debut as a TV lead in AMC's Mayfair Witches. Although things are looking up for Daddario, it hasn't been a smooth road to get there. The question remains, which of Alexandra Daddario's movies with terrible Rotten Tomatoes scores are actually awesome, and which are better left forgotten? While Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has starred in his fair share of disaster movies, 2015's San Andreas has a more realistic premise than most. The film centers on a devastating earthquake along the San Andreas Fault in California, a real-life tectonic split that has affected nearby areas throughout the 20th and 21st century. Johnson plays a helicopter pilot who teams up with his ex-wife, Carla Gugino, to save lives after a massive 9.1 magnitude quake, with Alexandra Daddario playing his daughter, who tries to survive on her own after being abandoned in the chaos. Despite the strong box office performance of San Andreas, reviews criticized its unoriginality and scientific inaccuracy. But despite its many flaws and a 49% score on Rotten Tomatoes, some felt that San Andreas was still a fun popcorn movie that's all spectacle and little substance. To Daddario's credit, some reviews of the film even complimented her charming performance. There's certainly been better disaster movies in the past few years, such as 2023's Society of the Snow, but unless you're looking for a fun movie night, San Andreas isn't a disaster movie you need to see before you die. While Alexandra Daddario has starred in action films, romantic comedies, and TV dramas, one genre she's appeared in quite frequently is horror films. However, the 2000s and 2010s were responsible for some of the worst horror movies ever made. While it's far from the bottom of the genre, 2010's Bereavement, a successor to Stephen Mana's indie slasher flick Malevolence, sits with a low 44% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. In Bereavement, Daddario plays Allison, a teen who gets kidnapped by a local serial killer. Although Allison shows more smarts than the average indie horror film lead, critics panned the film's over-reliance on violence, with the New York Times' Paul Brunick writing that they'd sooner touch a 9-volt battery to my tongue than sit through this film again. On the other hand, some reviewers felt it would appeal to fans of Malevolence. As for Daddario's part, many reviews of the film from 2010 credit the actress not for her performance, but for the overabundance of cleavage on display throughout the film. It's not the most encouraging audience response for a young actress, but thankfully, Daddario has been in much better horror movies since, such as We Have Always Lived in the Castle, with less discourse surrounding her body, so maybe her fans should check out those instead.